Thank you very much for your time and for meeting with everybody today. I know it's been a busy day for you, and congratulations on the interim job.
Thank you.
I want you to tell us a little bit about your background and what you think makes you right for this job right now.
I think one good thing in my favor is that I worked here back in the beginning of my law enforcement career, and so I do understand what the deputies go through on a daily basis. Once I left the Denver Sheriff's Department and went to Aurora and then ultimately Commerce City, I amassed even more information in the law enforcement world. I think supervising somebody in law enforcement is supervising somebody in law enforcement. So I've been fortunate. I've been involved in many different areas of law enforcement in my career. I've supervised a lot of people. I've managed people. I've worked with budgets. I've done pretty much everything I would do here in a different venue, and they're very closely related. So I don't feel like my police experience is less than the Sheriff's Department experience. I think they're very complementary. So I think I would be a very good candidate.
So you've been back for a little over a year now. What have you learned?
I've learned that the deputies are still incredibly hardworking. They're very positive. They love their jobs. They have a lot of pride. And so I think that they're very much like they were when I worked here all those years ago.
I think I read in the Denver Post that you haven't worked full-time in a jail since 1990. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What's changed?
The mental health population. Back in the day when I worked, we definitely had inmate population with mental health concerns, but now that number's 50%. So it's quite a bit higher, and it's a huge challenge for the deputies.
I've covered this story. I know that this jail has programs in place to address those problems. Do you think it can be improved, and how would you like to see those programs progress?
I think we have great programs. I think they're very valuable. I think an improvement that would be incredibly beneficial is for the community to look at other places to house people with mental health issues. I don't think the jail is the right place to put the population with mental health issues, especially when they've committed a very low-level crime. I think we have to think of other resources, treatment facilities, programs, or what, not to address these issues, and not house people in jail only because of their mental health issues.
While I'm on the topic of myself covering stories at the Denver jail, another story that we did recently was about the number of assaults on deputies, roughly 100 last year alone. Does that concern you, that number? Put it in perspective for us, and how do you plan to address the issue?
It's a very high number, and again, impacted by our mental health population. 75% of those were committed by people with mental health alerts, so it's huge. So we have implemented a lot of different things to try and reduce those numbers. We've had several pilot programs, and I don't know if that's what you covered or not. One of them was handcuffing and intake. So for example, before, when the police officers would bring in someone they arrested, the handcuffs would come off. And sometimes if people are in crisis, or they're high, or they're drunk, we would have fights and assaults. Now the handcuffs come off when the deputies feel like the situation has stabilized, when the person's not in such a crisis mode, and that has reduced the assaults. And another area that we've had success is actually giving the inmates more out time from pods. So we used to have the amount of time they were outside of their pod reduced. We looked at increasing that time, which seems counterintuitive. It was very successful. And so now when we have the inmates who are able to walk around, to have more social interactions, we see that we're having fewer problems.
On to some more high-level issues that you'll inevitably face or have to address. As you know, in the last few years, the city of Denver has paid millions to settle sexual assault claims, excessive force claims within the department, the Denver Sheriff's Department. The last sheriff came in looking to reform the department to avoid a lot of that, yet we still saw some of those problems. What do you think could have been done differently, and what would you do differently moving forward to address those problems, prevent them from happening?
Well, that's ideal, correct? And I don't know what we could have done in the past to prevent them, but moving forward, we're certainly going to strive for professionalism, to give the highest level of service we possibly can. I've been working with, and again, I'm in day 6, so I've got a ways to go, but working with different facilities, trainings, opportunities to increase the way or I guess, have a different mindset in how we look at problems, so that sometimes maybe we don't need to address the issue immediately. Maybe we can let things calm down. Just being able to think outside the box and think of different solutions for a problem, maybe rather than the things we've done in the past the way we've always done it.
Got it. So are you looking at maybe restructuring how you address particular problems is kind of what I'm hearing.
Yes, I think that's very fair. The handcuffing being a perfect example. Every reduction we make is a good story.
In an interview today that Mayor Hancock did with 9 News, he was interviewed, and he acknowledged that some facets of Denver public safety have experienced a fraternal culture for decades when he was speaking about some of these sexual harassment claims, something of a boys' club. He said the city needs to create a more welcome space for women and people of color, a place to work. Given the number of sexual harassment settlements in recent years, how would you describe the current culture within the Denver Sheriff's Department?
Again, something I'm just learning about, but I would hope that with me in this position for as long as that lasts, it gives the women in the department, one, an opportunity to feel like they could actually attain this position if they're so interested, but two, that they would have a voice in the upper command that would listen. One of my 2 chiefs is a female as well. I have majors that are females, and I'm hoping, because we have a very high number of women within our department, we have 30%. That's incredible. And we want those 30% to know that their voices are heard. And as far as respect goes, I expect respect to be both ways, men and women, but certainly that the women aren't excluded because of their gender.
How do you hope to continue to shift that culture? Because it's clear that the city and county are trying to change that, but we haven't seemed to be able to get around that corner yet. What kind of things would you like to implement or see happen to address that culture, changing it from a fraternity to a more inclusive place to work?
One, just me being here. Hopefully that has some impact. But 2, I suppose just education and letting people understand how others feel. I guess empathy, teaching empathy. This starts probably in our training academy, and also starts with who we recruit and hire into these positions, that we're looking possibly for markers that would let us know that in the future maybe someone would not be as inclusive as another, and just making sure we don't hire when we see warning signs up in the beginning.
You mentioned being a woman as being an important part of changing this culture, or at least a part of changing this culture. Do you believe that your appointment has anything to do with your sex?
I hope not. I hope it doesn't. I'd like to think it's based solely on my ability to do the job.
I want to rephrase the question, because I don't want to insinuate that you don't have the qualities necessary to do the job. Certainly, the people above you or who appointed you think highly of you. But do you think they thought, maybe it would also help to have a woman in this role?
Oh, I like your question. It's possible. It's very possible. There hasn't been a woman in this role before, and so maybe that was one of the considerations to try and maybe change the culture up a little bit.
Denver is the only city in the entire state that doesn't allow voters to decide on who is the sheriff of the department. What do you think about that?
Well, I think the city and county of Denver's sheriff's department is very different from every other sheriff's department in the state. We don't have a patrol function. We don't have an investigatory function. We focus on corrections. And so we aren't like the other sheriff's department in the state, and so I don't know whether that's necessary or not. But I think that no matter whether the sheriff is elected or appointed, the issues you have going on in the jail and in the department won't change. So they're not being addressed less effectively just due to an appointment.
Tell me about your approach to being at this level. What is it that you're bringing to the table? What's new?
I think the collaboration. I trust the people who work for me very much. I trust my 2 chiefs. I'm a very collaborative decision maker. I think we make better decisions in teams. I've had huge support from other members of the city. I know a lot of people, and so I'm already working on who I could bring in new ideas and new training to the department. And so I just like to think of it as a very well-rounded approach.
Interim, would you like this to be a full-time job?
From what I've seen in the 6 days, it's very intriguing.
You're not even a week in, though.
I'm not even barely a week in.
Yeah.
But I've been given a very warm welcome. I've been included in all sorts of different meetings and updates, and I've worked well with the city attorney's office and the manager of safety's office. So I think if this would continue, Denver is a very interesting place to work. It's a big city, has a lot of opportunities, and I think it's very interesting.
What do you think that the citizens of Denver think of the Sheriff's Department, and would you like to change their perspective?
I would like to change their perspective because I'm not sure they see it in the same eyes I do. I'd like them to see how hard the deputy sheriffs work, how dedicated they are, how they strive to provide really exceptional care to our inmates. So I'd like the citizens to see that and hopefully move past some of those sensational news stories.
Okay, thank you
Sure,
for your
thank
time.
you.
I appreciate you. Best of luck.
Thank you.